It's happened a long time ago during the California Gold Rush, about the 1840s, 1850s, and it was about a little dog. I don't know what the dog's name was, but he was very faithful to his owner, so we'll call him Fido. So back then, there were two men named George and Tom, and they were prospectors. Just in case you may not know what a prospector is, because that's a long word and we don't use that very much, they were the people who came to California to look for gold. So George and Tom, they lived in their little cabins in the mountains of California, kind of far away from each other, but close enough that when George, who was the younger of the two, had gone into town for his weekly, town runs, for supplies and stuff, he would always check in on Tom to make sure that he didn't need anything. And so there was one day he came by for his usual weekly visit, and he knocked. Tom, are you home? Do you need anything from town this week? There was no answer. He looked and he said, that's strange. And he looked inside the window to see if there was anybody there. But there was nobody there. And he goes, I wonder where he is. And so he turned around and started to try to get back on his horse. And all of a sudden he saw something rustling in the bushes. And out came little Fido. Hi, Fido, where's Tom? Where's Tom? And Fido had a little note in his mouth. And so he took the note and he opened it up and he said, And he said, I fell and broke my leg. Follow the dog. He will lead you to me. Okay, good dog, Fido. Good dog for bringing this to me. Do you know where Tom is? Woof, woof, woof. Yes. And so he started to wag his tail and started running up the trail. And so George followed him. It took a long time, but every so often, Fido would kind of turn back to make sure George was following him, and he'd go, woof, 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 like, hurry. And so George hurried. And so he came up there. It took a long time to finally find him, but they found him. Oh, poor Tom. He was so tired. He was cold and shivering. He had been there 2 whole days and nights without water or food. Quickly, George tore his shirt a little bit to make a bandage, and he gathered some sticks and tied them together and made a little sled. So you Pathfinders, remember, when you guys do your first aid relay, this is what you guys are practicing for. And so he very carefully picked up Tom and put him on the sled, and he started to walk very slowly and carefully down the mountain. It took a long time, but they finally came to the hospital. And so when they got to the hospital people came and they took they took Tom and very carefully took him inside so they can tend to him. And so Fido, who stayed right next to his master the entire way down the mountain, was wanting to go into the hospital too, but there was a man that stood there. No dogs allowed. Fido was sad, and George took him home to his cabin. During the time that he was there, George didn't eat. He hardly drank. He didn't want to move very much at all. George was afraid that the dog would die because he thought that his master was dead, because for days and days he had not seen his master anymore. And he thought he was going to either die from starvation or depression. And so the next week when he went back to town to get his weekly supplies, he visited Tom in the hospital. And George told him, Tom, I'm really worried about Fido. He's not eating. He's hardly drinking. He's not moving at all. I think he thinks you're dead. And so Tom thought, And he said, oh, I have an idea. Bring me a sandwich. A sandwich? I told you, I've been trying to feed him. He's not eating. Don't worry, I have a plan. Bring me a sandwich. And so George went and brought him a sandwich. And what did Tom do when he got that sandwich? He rubbed his hands all over the sandwich. He rubbed it on his shirt, everywhere he could think of, and he gave it back to George. And he said, put this in your pocket. And so George put it into his pocket, and by this time he knew what was going on, so he had a big smile on his face. And so when he got back to his cabin, he saw Fido was there, the same, just kind of moping around, not wanting to eat, not wanting to drink. And he said, Fido, I have a surprise for you. And he put the sandwich down on the floor, and at first Fido was like, And then he started And he started going over to the sandwich. Oh, and he smelled his master. His started to kind of, get excited. His tail started to wag, and he started to eat. And he started to drink because he was still kind of weak because he hadn't ate or drank very much for the last week. And soon, after a few days, he got his strength back. And you know why? Because he smelled his master. He knew his master was alive, and he knew his master was coming back someday for him. So boys and girls, I ask you, do we have a master? Are we waiting for that master to come back for us? Did he leave us clues for when he is returning and how he's going to return? Yes, it's right here in this Bible. So our job right now is to keep reading this Bible for his stories and his clues and be ready because he's coming back soon. Next, we're going to have a little health nugget.